Okay, we're live.
Everybody.
Hey everyone, we're finally back. I know it's been a while since we streamed together, but I'm over here with Mr. Kamala Harris shill himself. This dude's wearing the
How you guys
Harris for
doing?
President staff shirt.
I was thinking about changing it out, but I'm too tired, guys. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, since we last live streamed, this man got a job with the Harris campaign, which is kind of crazy.
Don't worry, if you're a Trump supporter, no hate. There's not judging you guys at all. I was literally knocking on doors, and there was this person with a Take America back flag and like a whole bunch of MAGA stuff. I knocked on their door wearing the same exact outfit, and we started laughing. They let me in, and we watched football. So I don't judge.
Wait, like you went in their house and watched
Yes, I went in
football
their
with
house.
them?
It was a whole family too.
That's really weird.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. So I don't let like political differences like get in the way of, you know.
No, I mean, I don't mean that the political differences are weird. I mean that it's weird that you just went in their house and started watching football with them.
You'd be surprised when you're knocking on doors, people will let you in. That they'll just be like, "Oh, you want to come in and grab some water?" It's like, "Okay, cool. You're going to get water with them." So yeah.
All right. I mean, okay, let me intro the stream a little bit because I see people in the chat already talking about it. Hey, Ray. Hey, Hershey Central, Will Faccaroni, CM. Thank you guys for being here already. Basically tonight I wanted to talk about, I mean, you hear nothing ever happens all the time, right? Like it's just a thing people say. But in my opinion, like last couple of years have actually been really eventful. Like I know it's kind of overplayed at this point, this sort of meme of like, I'm so tired of living through historical events. But it's like this election feels crazy. Last election felt crazy, like COVID, all that stuff happening, presidential assassination, like everything. This all sounds like a pretty big deal. So I wanted to touch a little bit on that idea. And I mean, even just like war in Gaza, war in Ukraine, like this is a pretty tumultuous time. So I wanted to address that idea a little bit, talk a little bit about the election as we get closer to it, because I can't stop thinking about it, and I know you can't either. So
They don't
just wanted to have a little space where we could talk about that and everything else that's been going on. So you guys can let us know if you got any thoughts, questions, or anything. And we immediately start off with a question on Hamas. Let's go.
Gosh, I just we didn't even make a big deal about that in the office today, but that's insane.
No, that's a big deal, and I've been trying to learn a lot more about just Israel Palestine in general this week. Will Faccaroni said the de facto leader and the de facto and official leader of Hamas and architect of the October 7th attack, Yahya Sinwar, was killed yesterday. Any thoughts?
I'm just curious to see what Benjamin Netanyahu does after this. Like, what are his goals now that he's killed like the leader? Is someone going to rise to power? I assume someone will.
Okay, so I actually spent a lot of time listening to this today, and most of the thoughts that I saw were like, okay, this is kind of their Bin Laden moment, right? Mm-hmm. Like, U.S. goes into Afghanistan, we want to kill Bin Laden, we eventually do kill him, and then after that, we're like, okay, let's nation build. And suddenly the entire objective changes. And in a perfect world, I think this would be where the U.S., or not perfect world, because obviously what's happened in Gaza is like travesty, and like innocent people just being killed left and right. But I think this would be a really good time for the U.S. to pressure Israel and be like, hey, get out of there. We got to stop the killing. You guys got the guy. But I don't really see that happening. Like, I think Netanyahu is going to want to keep expanding the war. I think that it's going to be, I mean, you've seen the rhetoric this whole time. It hasn't been about getting Sinwar. It's been about eradicating Hamas. And it's like, how do you even do that when that's the governing body in Gaza? Like, that makes it really hard to negotiate with them. And they killed the head of the political wing of Hamas that they were negotiating with, like while they were in active negotiations with him. So it doesn't really give the impression that you really want to find to find a peace right now. But I think that Yahya Sinwar is gonna be like, he's kind of the winner of this, unfortunately. Like, that's a horrible human being that like deserves condemnation, obviously, but he wanted to radicalize a generation of Palestinians. Like, he wanted to get more people to join Hamas. He wanted to have a reason for people to be angry at Israel and be hateful, and he's getting what he wants, no matter how many Palestinians he had to kill to get there.
100% true. Yeah, this is where public opinion will really turn against Benjamin Netanyahu, like, because we know he's going to nation build, so it's going to get really bad.
Yeah, dude. We started immediately out of the gate with the heaviest question. Thank you, Will Factor.
It's good to see you again. Well, I did not forget you, man.
Yeah, no, it's dude. I'm so surprised by how often it's familiar faces on the live streams. Like, it's usually a lot of the same people, and I wouldn't have expected that. I think it's very heartwarming, honestly. Do you have any more thoughts on Israel Palestine before we move on?
Oh my goodness, dude, that's like it's a whole wormhole of like we have to have a specific stream for that, and then do like some extra research just on top of it. If you ask me. Chief Palpatine, great to see you again.
God, no, man, all this week at work, I have been listening to just Israel Palestine stuff all day, just like history, podcasts, just like everything that I can get. I was so exhausted, and like yesterday, I got to my girlfriend's house, and I got out of my car, and I was like, Andre, leave it at the door. Like, leave it at the door. Just, oh my God,
that's too much.
It's just really heavy stuff. Okay.
James Carville,
Chief Palpatine, what are your thoughts on James Carville? I'd like to start with you on this one, Mr. Bill Clinton.
Yeah, don't do that. James Carville is like a really like important political operative for people that don't know. He was on Bill Clinton's campaign. I believe he's the one who came up with the economy's stupid, and then also he's just like super important. He has some really great political takes right now. What he's focused on is like what's the problem with the Democratic Party and attracting men into the party. Been watching a lot on that. I agree with a lot of what he's saying about how we talk down to men right now. But there's also some problems I have with that. I haven't fully fleshed out my thoughts on it, but I think he's very talented. He has a simplistic way of going about politics, which is smart when so many of these political operatives are making things way more complicated than they need to be sometimes. So
yeah, you know what, I found out the other day that he's married to some like Republican staffer.
What?
So he's been married to her for since like the 90s, and I think that's really funny. So I think James Carville is really talented, obviously. Like the Bill Clinton era of of American politics, I think. Dude, like I was looking at it, that guy won 370 electoral votes. Those are insane numbers. Like that, James Carville really knew how to meet that political moment with Bill Clinton. I've been a little more wary of his advice this time around. He was one of those bullish on Biden people initially, wasn't he? He was like telling Biden not to drop out.
I can't actually got to look that up. I can't remember. Maybe Sheev can say. I'm not entirely sure. And if he did, he was probably making the 68 argument. But yeah, James.
Sheev is talking about a CNN documentary on him. Well,
thank you.
Because I saw him. I was watching Pod Save America of all things, because they had a James Carville interview, and I was like, that seems interesting. And I think it was marketing that CNN.
Sheev. Real quick to Sheev, you're the man, because I love CNN. Andre knows this. I love CNN documentaries, especially their political ones, and I completely forgot that they came out with that. So I'm gonna watch it. Thank you, man.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I'm gonna have to check that out as well.
Yeah,
we got Seymour Skinner Part 2.
These are all familiar faces.
I know. I feel so bad because he kept missing the streams, but he made it this time. In his defense, I did like stream the last time just out of nowhere because I wanted to, and it was a really short stream, so it's not his fault.
I feel like we're missing one other person.
We're missing a couple of people. Like a couple familiar faces. Will Faccaroni said Harris did the Fox News interview. How do you think it went? Have you seen much of that?
There's so much political content that's been coming out that I haven't had the time to fully sit down and watch. Like the Fox News interview, Ted Cruz and Colin Allred. Like there's a lot of stuff I'm missing out on right now,
Oh my god,
But
I really want to talk about that.
yeah, let's do it. But from what I've seen, she comes off like Brett Baer. From the one clip I saw, like he was asking like a really stupid question. She kind of got a little angry. My question is like how the whole thing about her being like oh the first like potential female president. I wonder how people are reacting to seeing her like be as combative as she is. Like being the first female candidate, not the first female candidate, but someone that's trying to be the first female president. A lot of eggshells you have to walk on, the same way that Obama had to. Like you can't afford to go out crazy like Trump does. But I don't know. From what I've seen, she did well.
See, for the most part, I actually thought that she did really well. There was those moments there where Brett Baer was really just trying his best to get her to call like half of Americans stupid and have her basket of deplorables moment, which is just like
She's
how
handled that
untalented,
really well, by the way.
Dude. I was gonna say how
you see how the way she's like responded to like the black men thing, like she's handling it really well.
Dude, honestly, I thought she was gonna do this, and I kind of wish she had to say like, hey, I'm not entitled to anyone's vote. I have to earn every single vote that I get. Like I think that kind of stuff would be really nice, especially when Democrats have been saying like the opposite. Like Democrats can't fail. They can only be failed. And they could get mad at everybody for not coming out to vote and make all these excuses when in reality it's your job. Like you're the politician.
Exactly. She did say that about black men, but I can't remember if I guess she didn't say that in the Brett Baer interview.
See, well, because Obama of all people came out and started like lecturing black men in like this weird, really cringe way, which is like, does he just not care as much anymore? Did he lose some of the juice?
Yeah, like it's just not a smart like political move. Like regardless of whether it's true or not, you don't do that. Just it's a stupid move to make.
Well, because I saw someone making a good point. Like he was speaking to a group of young black men at some like Democratic event. So like the people that he was talking to were black men that were motivated and were out there to vote. And it's like, who are you? Like, dude, who is this for?
That's literally
be like, oh yeah, Obama's telling me to vote. I gotta get out there, man. Like
the kind of place that he's at is like the kind of place that I work at. So I was like really like, like I know everyone in that room is like supporting you, dude. But also at the same time though, he's using that space to talk to black people on the outside because I've talked to a lot. And you probably feel this way. I've talked to a lot of men. Never heard the statement, actually, I've heard it once. But there are subtle signs that I see sometimes in some men where it's like, she's a woman. And it's a weird thing. They never fully explicitly say, I don't want to call out anyone. I kind of want to say, there's one person, I'm trying to figure out a way to say this person's name, or to say who this person is without saying it. But I guess I just won't. But I think I told you about this guy. His biggest issue for not voting for Kamala Harris is that he doesn't want homosexuality to be out on the streets. And the other issue was that she's a woman. And it's like, dude, and he's like 50-50 on Trump versus Harris. And this is a black guy too. And it's like, come on, man.
Dude, it's so weird.
Yeah, with a lot of interesting opinions. Let me fix my chair.
It's so weird to think that someone actually thinks like that. Like I would never shame anyone for who they vote for. Like I think candidates, like I said, have to earn your vote. Like you could have a lot of reasons to not vote for Kamala, but like to just explicitly do it because she's a woman is kind of crazy. Like I kind of thought that we were past that, and people might at least even if that was the real reason, they wouldn't be as open about it.
I thought so.
But maybe I'm being too generous.
Have you seen those TikToks of those guys who are just like straight up, she's a woman, I'm not voting for her. And I used to think those are just like the worst samples possible. But then I'll see like Don Lemon go and do the same thing, and he'll also get like the same group of people.
Dude, so Don Lemon was never interesting. Like he was never interesting, and then he did his whole like I got canceled type shtick, and it's like who is this for?
There's a lot of you've seen what the Young Turks lady, what's her name again? Anna
Kasparian, her little "Why I Left the Left" type stuff.
I'm curious as to whether she's just gonna straight up like go like what's his name, Jimmy Dore or almost said Mark Rubin. Rubin Report guy. What's his name? Whatever his name.
Oh,
is.
Dave Rubin. Oh,
Dave
dude,
Rubin. Yeah.
Dave Rubin is like an empty husk of a of a political
I'm curious
commentator.
if she's gonna go there or just be like, actually, like, hey, like, let's hear other sides. Let's not just hear Young Turks leftism anymore. You know, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with her.
Okay. We got another comment from Sheev. Have you seen the Trump campaign song "Yo voy a votar por Donald Trump" by Los Tres de Habana? It's for the Trump Latinos movement. I've heard of it. I don't think I've actually, or I might have seen like little clips for it.
Never seen this before. There are a lot of go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, as someone who lives in a pretty like Hispanic Latino area, I'd say like the support for Trump here seems pretty 50-50. Like Trump Harris seems pretty 50-50 among Hispanics, honestly, at least in South Florida. And I know that we're a more conservative state now at this point, but they're like, I'm totally not surprised if I see like Trump stuff on like a Hispanic guy's car or something. And I think it's smart. I think it's smart for them to try to diversify their coalition a little bit, to kind of go against the demographics is destiny type thought that the Democrats had for a long time. Like, I think it's good for our country to have parties that aren't so racially polarized, even if the sort of crossroads they've made among minority voters aren't like super significant yet. I do think that that is mostly a good thing. Though I know a lot of guys have been concerned about the gender divide. And how like most women are getting more liberal and most men are getting more conservative, which is going to have like some interesting social dynamics in the future. But I don't know. I'm curious to see this actual realignment that's happening and how it's going to be different from what we expected.
Yeah, there's a chance that this is a chance that it's like a uniquely Trump thing because of his like machismo like factor, and this is not specifically related to the Latino community, but there may be a chance that that is like a specific thing with Trump. But we'll see. We'll have to see in the future. But I always did the whole argument about like, well, what was it? The what was the movement? What was the thing called about like where all the minorities were gonna start voting for Democrats? What is it called again?
Minorities.
The basically that after Obama won, that all minorities are more likely to gonna vote for Democrats, and it was going to destroy the Republican Party as we know it.
I'm
I don't know
not familiar with that,
but the concept in general, like I think it's just, I hate when like these, not political pundits, but these thinkers are just like, oh, this is how it's going to be now, and it's like the Republican Party is going to always evolve to win. Like the goal of a political party is to win. They will evolve. We will have like a large coalition of Black Republicans one day, and there is right now, but not as bad as it might be in the future, you know. But
yeah. I mean, and like I said, I think that's mostly a good thing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I think it's mostly a good thing for us not to be so racially polarized.
I think I told you about this one, and we were like driving by the Charlotte Pride Parade. We saw like this group of like anti-LGBTQ people, but it was so diverse. And I just thought to myself, like, wow, that's a good thing, you know. Like, as bad as it is, as much as they're saying these people need to go to hell, I'm like, there's a brown person, there's an Asian person, there's a white person. This country's progressing on some level.
Dude, I mean, I know we've talked about this before, but like, Black Americans, especially in the South, are fairly socially conservative.
Very, very.
Like, a lot of people would be Republican if it wasn't just for like the race politics there.
100%. You remember the guy I was telling you about earlier? I don't want to say what he does, but that guy, he was he's pretty much a conservative, but he's Black, so that's the only reason he hasn't fully switched over. But yeah.
Crazy stuff. Okay, real talk. Do you believe that Trump will incite another insurrection if Harris wins, or will he do something much worse? Speaking of nothing ever happening.
I mean, I definitely think it's possible. I don't like to be like one of these like super liberally people. It's like, oh, democracy will end, but like January 6th did happen, you know? Like it's not like some fictional thing that we're talking about. This isn't 2019 anymore. It's a very real possibility. We have people going to do early voting right now, and they're there are complaints that there's a bunch of Trump people outside just like watching them hard. I don't know if you've seen videos online too. There's like videos of this now. Like there's a minority of Trump supporters that are very radical and believe anything he says and will fight for it. Small minority though.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's true, but I think there's a couple of realities here. I think we can be less worried than we were last time around for a couple reasons. Like, number one, Trump isn't in power. You know, it's a lot harder for him to pull any strings like he was trying to during the 2020 election, right? That doesn't mean that something like another insurrection wouldn't happen necessarily, but I think if you are a Trump supporter and you saw what happened, not even like Trump supporters in general, because I don't think most Trump supporters would have done January 6th and one, like, I think that is truly like the fringe of the fringe. Mm-hmm. I think anyone who would have participated in a January 6th, like, you see what happened last time, you see like how they threw the book at those people, you see like Ashley Babbitt got killed, right? Like that is serious business. Like, it's not just this cool little thing and you can run in there. Like, there's going to be a lot more security this time around. I think if you were to even try to do that you're just really stupid. You're even more stupid than people were the first time around. So it's like, yeah, Trump is probably, if he does lose, going to like say more crazy election stuff, and he's probably going to try to sue again and do all these things that are going to cast doubt on our democratic process. But I don't think anything as like big and explosive and frankly like flashy as January 6th is going to happen.
What if there's a recount though? That's what we were talking about. For my job there, we worked till November 15th, and we were talking about the idea of like, there's a chance we might have to stay longer because there might be a recount, and we might have to go out and like get more votes. I would never say never with Trump. As someone who like used to hate on like liberals when I was younger, like I thought it was like stupid, like, oh, you think Trump's gonna be a dictator on day one, whatever, all that crap. But I would never say never with Trump and that small minority of Trump supporters. See, not saying yes, not saying no, but I would never say never with these people.
Did you see the because Georgia had some weird rule this time around where you were gonna have to like count all of the ballots by hand, which is absolutely insane, and some like county judge overturned it. So
that is so
like, Jesus, dude. No, there's just crazy distrust in institutions. I genuinely think that has like fundamentally altered American politics for the foreseeable future. Like, I don't really know how we come back from that. And it was the same thing like 2016. He was like, oh, if I don't win, it's rigged. I would have won the popular vote if it, like, dude, this time around, bro was saying he's gonna win. He would win California if it wasn't rigged.
Oh my gosh! Did you see his flagrant interview?
Oh, I saw clips of it. It was
that's the best interview he's ever done, if you ask me. Like, that was the most human he's ever come off. He was hilarious. He was just
really, I thought he was really human on Theo Von.
And I never fully watched Theo Von, but he probably was, considering the fact.
Dude, he started talking about like his dead brother and how he like drank himself to death, and why he never drank because of that. I thought I was like, huh, this is actually pretty like compelling personally.
Yeah, it goes into being a great politician. Like, you can make people like you if you want.
Okay, Drew Santa Sarah. I hope that I said that wrong. I'm so sorry. Predictions on where each party goes from here in case their side loses the election.
That's a great question.
Dude, where would Democrats go?
We can really spend like a whole hour talking. This is a great question. Let's say Harris loses. What would be the lessons learned? Oh my God, my dog. Ooh, it's a great question. There's definitely the left of the party is going to be like, oh, they're not left enough. It's either going to be, they're either going to have like a 90s Clinton moment, or they're going to try to do the populism thing again with like a left-wing candidate. But even then, now that I think about that, I don't even know if that's true. I really got to stop and think about this question. This is a great question.
Dude, okay. One thing I will say, if Harris loses, they are not nominating another woman for a really long time. Unfortunately, they're gonna be like, nope. like the next,
they're gonna get like
line
Obama level woman who's like capable of like being like the greatest president ever. They're like, nah, we're good. We're gonna pass.
No, it's gonna be like Gavin Newsom, Tim Walz, Josh Shapiro, like just like Andy Bashir, that complete line of just old white guys.
They might even do a brown person again. They might just be like, let's just Let's just play it really safe right now.
Okay,
But,
all serious, like policy wise. Okay, number one, I think the Biden bros, suddenly a lot of Biden bros are gonna come out and they would be like, man, he would have won, man. He would have totally won. It's not like he was gonna be competitive in New Jersey. Like, I think Democrats. I do think getting Biden out of there fundamentally changed the game. I think it's like, oh, we don't have to stick with an unpopular incumbent, which I don't know if that says something about where our politics are at, or if it's just that we haven't had this unpopular of an incumbent in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Biden had no base, no constituency in the Democratic Party, and it's actually really hilarious how little of like support, like hard support that he had. Like, I don't think people, unless you were really paying attention, I don't think he would have realized that beforehand. Like Trump and Biden, it was always Trump has a really like high floor but a low ceiling. Like Biden's the opposite. Biden has a super low floor and like a high ceiling because he's just not that offensive, you know, until inflation just largely became like associated with him, which is also really interesting because people don't associate Kamala Harris with inflation nearly as much as they do Joe Biden. So that really stuck to him in particular. So maybe the Democrats don't change. Maybe they don't really pivot. You know, who knows? Even just like if you look at Democrats in 2018 would get called like communists by Democrats now. Like that 2020 primary, Kamala Harris is a completely different candidate, you know?
In hindsight, we were in such a bubble because like a lot of the stuff they were saying, I'm like, they're not going left enough. Like in hindsight, it's like, oh my god, like, we were in, because for people that don't know, we were like really big into Bernie Sanders, but like, yeah, in hindsight, we were not like feeling the vibe, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they just wanted, it was just all about beating Trump. And that's the sort of consequence of this Trump era, right? Is just that when beating Trump is the number one thing, everything else is secondary. And I think a lot of people misread that energy by thinking like, okay, so we need to be like the most progressive possible. We need to be the anti-Trump. When Biden was able to be the anti-Trump on a lot of like interesting vibe levels that I guess don't really work when you're the incumbent. But we haven't talked about the Republican Party at all.
Yeah, we have to. The greatest thing someone said is like it's just going to be The Apprentice in 2028. No matter what, if Trump loses, I still think he's going to have like a major say, and where he's going to be choosing the candidate, it's going to be so entertaining.
It's been a little controversial for me to say that I don't think he would run again, but I stand by it. I don't think there's any way. He'd be so old, man. He'd be so old. He'd be how old Biden is now.
Yeah, I've started to like lean off of that. I'd never say never, but I'm definitely leaning off of it a lot more, you know, because he has like, for him to say like, I might not run again. It's actually kind of funny.
I think Trump would choose JD just because, like, I think that's what the JD choice was. Oh, thank you, Drew, for the super chat. That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate your generosity. I think that like the JD choice was the direction of the party choice. Like I don't think he would have chosen. Oh, it's so funny because he chose JD in the only window of time that I think he could have chosen him, which was between getting shot and like the 2 days between getting shot and Biden dropping out. He was like, okay, it doesn't matter who I choose. I'm going to win like 300 electoral votes and I need to just have someone who's going to help me out in the future, you know? So I think it'll just be a war probably between like the Nikki Haley's and if they even have any more relevance or if they're just going to get folded into the Democratic Party, though I think they'll probably still be trying in 2024 to do something there. DeSantis might try again, but I don't know how relevant he's still going to be because he'll have been out of office for like 2 years.
You see DeSantis' smile where he's like, like, I don't think he's going anywhere, dude. I'm sorry. I don't
know how he became like their Chad.
Yeah, I don't.
Like, okay. We are really behind.
Like, for the Democrats, I think it'll be like Josh Shapiro because of Pennsylvania, Jewish Obama, Wes Moore, Gavin Newsom. Speaking of which, I saw Gavin Newsom today.
Did you get to talk to Gavin Newsom? We haven't talked about that at
Yeah,
all. You were sitting here for the
Gavin
stream.
Newsom came down to the office, looks exactly like how you think Gavin Newsom looks, talks exactly like he does on the screen, way taller than I thought he was going to be in person. He gave a speech. It was really good. Then afterwards, like I went up to him. I went to shake his hand, and this other lady kind of barged in, and he shook his hand. He shook his hand, her hand, and then he also grabbed my hand at the same time. So he's like grabbing both of our hands. It's like, all right, cool, or whatever. Didn't ask to get a picture, but he's exactly what you see on TV. He's the exact person.
So you didn't manage to get a picture?
I just didn't want to take a picture. I won't lie. It was just stupid in hindsight.
Dude, why are you so weird about that? That's so.
I don't know.
I would 100% snapped a photo.
I will if I see Bill Clinton tomorrow. I will do that.
I mean, were you particularly impressed by Gavin Newsom at all, or were you just like, oh, it's Gavin Newsom?
I mean, we had Andy Bashir come by, and he was like, he's a great governor, but he was kind of boring, to be honest with you. Elizabeth Warren was a great speaker, so in comparison, he was the most like presidential. Like when he came in, like he seems like a president. You know, he just kind of looks like one.
I mean, that man was made in a lab. That guy's like Fitzgerald Grant from Scandal. He's
perfect, and it's kind of weird. It's kind of like, okay, this is not right. So,
dude, still so crazy to me that he used to be married to Kimberly Guilfoyle. That's so funny. It
tells you a lot about his personality.
Okay, we will finally move on. We're so behind on questions. Like, this question is from 20 minutes ago. What are y'all's thoughts on internet contrarianism? I've encountered a lot of dudes on the internet who hate on generally good presidents who seem smarter than they are. FDR and Kennedy.
Where are you seeing that at? Is it like a Twitter thing or Reddit thing?
I've seen a lot of like ideological hate on FDR. As far as Kennedy, I don't see much Kennedy hate. People have kind of called me a Kennedy hater.
I'm the closest thing to a Kennedy hater.
See, okay. I think Kennedy is sort of. I don't think he's a bad president. I don't think he was a bad president, but I think he's a little overhyped. Just because of the martyr factor. Like, I think we remember him much more, and we remember, like, he has such a bipartisan admiration. Like, people just really mess with him off of the vibes, you know, in a way that I don't think they would if he had lived. And I think there's also a really interesting question there that I've brought up in like videos about LBJ and about Nixon is like, hey, these two presidents that have really controversial legacies, they dealt with the issues that JFK would have had to deal with. Like, they embodied that era that JFK like missed out on, that he was killed right before, and he would have, like, JFK would have had to have made a lot more decisions on Vietnam. He would have had to
100%.
There'd be a lot more civil rights strife because he probably wouldn't have been able to pass like the same level of legislation that LBJ did. You know, they got the
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I haven't been seeing a lot of it, but there's like this really popular video about like Abraham Lincoln being a dictator. Seymour might know about it. I was telling you about it, and it was this like super weird like libertarian guy who like and he's also a Trumper too, and it's like you can just tell like he's like there's a certain kind of like person that will like look at like information and like just twist it and like over exaggerate it to fit their narrative, and he's just one of those guys. But it's similar to that Woodrow Wilson video. Speaking of which, we still haven't done anything with Woodrow Wilson. But yeah, I would be curious if that's like a online, if that's a Twitter thing or a Reddit thing, or if that's just everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, just to address the contrarianism more directly, you can find anybody with any opinion on the internet, man. Like, I've really had to learn that with commenters. Like, one time, oh my god, there was this guy that left this comment. I don't even remember what video it was under, but he just said a bunch of stuff that was wrong. And he was just like criticizing my video, and I replied to him because I don't usually reply to like comments where people are just straight up wrong, but I gave him like a intricate like, hey, you said this that isn't true. You said, like, he was just getting so much wrong. God, I wish I remembered the specifics of it more. But he said he was saying some stuff. I think it was about being a political Outsider. I think it was on The Last Politician, and he was like, "Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna remember the finer details of it. But it was just like, it's just pointless, man. Like, if you're talking to someone and they're just like a brick wall, just leave it.
You know, I talk to a lot of Trump Republicans. I'll give them all the facts that they want. It's about feelings at the end of the day. That's what people don't realize. Like, you can give them all the information. It's about how they feel about a certain issue. So until you can like give them a specific story, you can't change people's minds like that.
Okay, we are behind. We're really behind, so I'm gonna
That's such a good thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump a couple questions. I'm sorry, guys. We have so many questions to get to.
We might be missing on one of the greatest questions ever, but okay. I know it's from Will or Sheev.
Just to do. Okay, I'll skip to. Okay, Will was saying something interesting. He said part of the reason Biden won Arizona in 2020 was because of the Native American votes. And MSN predicts the Native vote could help the state again. Do you think this group is underpandered to or not? Man, honestly, I wish I knew more.
Yeah, that's you're introducing me to that.
Yeah, I honestly
may prove your point.
Yeah,
yeah, I don't even think about.
Yeah, I'm so embarrassed to say I've not thought about that.
Yeah. Maybe I'll do some research afterwards, but you know, you're probably right. The fact that I didn't know that fact, I mean, that kind of proves the question. Like, I guess they are.
Yeah. He also said, my dad was a Trump supporter, and when watching the Vance Walz debate before it even started, he wanted to beat up the. Whoa! Normalization of violence in MAGA is more widespread. What? Jesus, bro. Oh, did my camera freeze?
Man, that's crazy.
Wait, did my camera freeze, or is that just on my
Yeah, it froze. And it froze at like the worst.
No, okay. I stopped using my webcam and I figured out how to use the camera that I do for my videos, so hopefully it looks a lot better now. And I can put a Kai to shame.
Yeah, I was talking crap about his camera because, like, why am I not a YouTuber with a better camera than him from the last streams, though?
Okay, well, I figured it out. Dude, that is your dad okay? Like, Jesus, man, that's rough.
And I know you probably debate about politics all the time, and nothing changes. That's just how it is.
If Harris loses, I think Josh Shapiro will emerge as a right flank, and AOC comes out for the left wing. If Republicans lose, I think DeSantis goes through Dewey-style political recovery. Man, does DeSantis have that level of charisma, though? I feel like as soon as there was any national spotlight on him, he just folded so quick.
Yeah, that smile. Josh Shapiro would definitely emerge. AOC would get her group, but it's like she's a young Hispanic woman. Like, I'm sorry. Maybe
I think she needs to be senator. Yeah, I think Chuck Schumer gets out of there, she'll be senator, and then after that we can talk.
Yeah, then we can like have a conversation. But right now, she's not it.
Crisis Moon asks if I would ever do a video on Abraham Lincoln. I would love to. I, for some reason, just have a much easier time covering 20th century politics, which I'm sure you probably know because you've been on these streams a lot. I have a video that's about the Civil War and the sort of like context around the Civil War that talks about Lincoln a bit, but not in a sort of like personal deep dive level as I've had for other like historical figures. I think that maybe it's that I'm focusing on the 20th century right now so that I still have more eras that I can kind of get to later, right? Like I can kind of work through different periods in American politics in depth. Like one of the most requested things is a Grant video, like constantly just Grant video. And dude, I would love to do it. It's just not where I'm at right now, even if I think it'd be a good idea in the future. Trump would only be the same age as Biden now, and I think it's possible to do the same thing. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible he would run, but I don't see it.
I never doubt it, but not leaning there right now.
Democrats are going to do to JD like the Republicans did to Hillary. They know he has presidential aspirations and are going to run his reputation down.
My question is, how much can a Trump endorsement like bring a candidate to the finish line? Because the dude is just not charismatic at all.
I mean, I think you need to remember, like, even if that did happen in a Republican primary, that doesn't matter. Like, that really doesn't, you know, and you've seen that with races all across the country. It's just like whoever Trump endorses gets there, and then they get to the general and they shit the bed.
That is true. That is true. Especially with Mark Robinson in North Carolina right now. So,
yeah, we got to talk about that. Alec Duncan, with the Republican Party becoming the party of Trump, the old Republicans and rhinos have been kicked out or sided. Do you think these conservatives will create a new party or join the Democrats? I mean,
they got
Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney. They got one last fight in 2028. Like, if they can get Nikki Haley, they'll be back with the Republicans, or just any like midway like DeSantis type figure. You know, I think they'll.
You could have seen this in 2024, maybe with like a no labels, but I think they probably just understand that if they make a new party, they're just cooked. What's Andrew Yang up to?
Where's Andrew Yang at right now?
If I requested to interview him, do you think he'd come on?
Maybe I can see it.
I don't know who he's talking to right now. Like, dude. Okay, from Dick Cheney's perspective, like, why does Dick Cheney endorse Kamala Harris? Because his number one thing is national security, and the Republicans are super anti-Ukraine right now. So I think if you're Dick Cheney, it actually does make sense to endorse Kamala Harris, because I don't think he cares about like domestic policy, at least not nearly as much as he does foreign policy. And I think that Trump probably isn't that ideological and is a lot more likely to just kind of listen to whoever's in his ear, who are probably going to be more sort of like fringe right-wing people in a second Trump administration. So I think if you make the Dick Cheney calculus, you know, I think like the thing about Dick Cheney though is he has no future, right? He doesn't really have anything to lose, so he can just kind of do whatever he thinks. Like Nikki Haley, if Nikki Haley was Dick Cheney's age, like, yeah, she probably would have endorsed Kamala Harris too, but she wants a future in the Republican Party, and she knows she's cooked if she does that.
Yeah, it's so funny that Dick Cheney endorsed Harris before Bush did.
I mean, Bush is president though. Like I kind of get it, right? Like, and he doesn't like. I remember it was so crazy. Just when I saw Bush speak earlier this year, and he was like, "Yeah, there's not really good options to vote for. I'll probably just like write in Jeb or somebody." Just like, I swear he said, "I will write in Jeb or somebody," and I was like, "Yeah."
I believe he did Condoleezza Rice in 2020, so
which is more, I don't know, it's a little more respectable than Jeb, man.
Yeah. Please clap. Also a reality where Jeb Bush is president.
What would you guys say to Trump if you met him randomly on the campaign trail?
Ooh. I don't think there's, as fun of a question as that is, like, realistically, I don't think I'd really care to say anything to him. I gotta actually.
I don't know. I disagree. I think I would want to talk to him. I just don't know what I would say.
Like, okay, just pick like you're at I don't know.
I'm a lot more likely to run into Trump than you are because I'm in the area.
That is true.
I've been dude. I've gone to Mar-a-Lago like twice, and you cannot get like really close to it. Like, I haven't like been in it. Obviously, I've driven around it.
Trying to think. I actually really have to sit and stop and think. So give me a second.
I don't know. I have a fairly like moderate disposition. I don't think I'd be one of those guys. It's like, screw you, Trump.
Yeah. See, like, and like that's like all I. What am I gonna say?
Yeah, like I'm not. I don't even. What if I could probably just take like a little. I'd be like, hey, subscribe to Andre Dutra on YouTube.
Okay, I'd say that too then.
If I can get Trump to say subscribe to Andre Dutra,
I would do something like that.
The best YouTuber.
I don't think I can get myself to like actually say anything to him. I mean, best case scenario, I'd shake his hand. That's the max idea.
Okay, we got Gail Sarmiento. Andy Bashir gives me John Edward vibes, progressive and conservative state who seems too perfect in appearance.
Yeah, that's. I think he's
Maybe
actually a decent guy though.
maybe I just have negative impressions surrounding John Edwards. What was it like to be a John Edwards head before all the cheating on his wife stuff?
I think he was like the next Bill Clinton at a time when we thought like the next president needed to be like Bill Clinton. That's
Man,
really
isn't it so funny that we nominated two dudes named John on the same presidential ticket in 2004?
I never thought about that.
John Kerry, John Edwards. It's so goofy. Just like that kind of represents like a shifting moment for the Democratic Party. Like you literally just nominated these two square-jawed dudes with the most basic names possible, and then next election you get Obama, then Hillary, then Biden and Kamala.
Harrison. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that was the last time we'll. Actually, no, I can't. I was gonna say last time we get two white guys, but that's literally not true.
What do you mean in the Democratic Party?
Well, yeah, the Democratic Party specifically, but definitely not just in general.
So Seymour said he was reading Dalek's biography on Kennedy. Certainly would have been slightly less accomplished, LBJ domestically, but the book cements the fact that Kennedy would have pulled out an arm. I never finished that book. I started reading that book like years ago before I even read presidential biographies, and I stopped when he got to the Senate, I think, for some reason.
Yeah, I've never read this book at all. I don't know. He was always very hesitant about it, but like the culture of America was just different. You know, like the idea of pulling out of a war post World War II, especially a war against communism. I don't know.
Isn't it interesting how that entire sort of line of like World War II veteran presidents, and JJ McCullough has like a great video about this, we're all like very foreign policy focused, first and foremost, other than like maybe LBJ.
Yeah.
Like if you think about JFK, Nixon,
JFK, Truman. Yeah, I guess. And even LBJ.
Yeah, even like Bush Senior, Reagan.
Yeah, that is very true.
Apparently you were talking about Razor Fist.
Yeah.
Guy.
Yes, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Oh, we got Sleeping Joe here. I met Josh Shapiro and had a conversation with him while visiting state rep candidates. He came off as very presidential and had very friendly neighbor type vibes, in my opinion. I don't agree with him on 100% of issues. I'm a progressive, but he is a solid leader. Did he do the Obama voice when you were just talking to him, or is that just a speech thing?
It's funny. There's the rally that he did with Obama, and like as they're walking off stage, you know how Obama does the way his hand moves and everything, and like Josh Shapiro is like in front of him and Obama's behind him, and they're like doing the same exact hand movements, and like they end the hand movement at the same time, and as they walk off, it was so funny.
See, this is the problem with getting so behind on the comments is people always like comment on the things we're talking about in the moment, and we don't get to it for another 20 minutes.
That is true.
Fancy Cat. What states do you see being swing states in future elections? What current swing states do you see being more partisan in the future?
I guess Texas is like the thing right now, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude,
we'll have to see long term. I remember you had a question about this on one of your live streams. But yeah, we'll have to see long term. But for right now, it does seem like a potential swing state. Is North Carolina a swing state?
Yeah, dude, Biden lost by like a point.
Yeah,
he by either like 1 or 2 points, which is insane. Yeah, I didn't realize it was.
I guess it's already there.
What could be potentially
back into a swing state? I'm still confused as to why Florida is so Republican. Like I know technically
because we had a massive. I have a video about this coming out tomorrow about like modern Florida history.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, with COVID, a lot of, and this is actually really interesting election wise, but a lot of swing state Republicans and blue state Republicans came to Florida during coronavirus because we were having an economic boom. People really like the DeSantis policies. Florida is sort of like a dream state. It's this place like people want to move to. And that's why you see like so many conservatives have come to Florida that Trump was leading Harris by like 6 in Florida but Kamala was leading nationally, and she's leading in the swing states. And it's like, okay, if those swing state voters came to Florida, then that means you're going to have an inherent disadvantage there if you're focusing Republicans from all over the country in this one state that's already going to be pretty safe Republican. So it's like Democrats are losing Florida, but they're getting more votes in like Texas, California, or California's not a swing state, but like, you know, like all these random places from around the country are just losing a little bit of the Republican population. And I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to see what happens with that. I don't really know what states are going to become swing states.
I'm not like one of those people that like looks at electoral college maps and like changes the colors and all that stuff. I've never been that kind of person. So I'm really not the best person for that, to be honest.
Okay. Seymour said Dewey wasn't charismatic. In 1940, he was a puppet of the Dulles brothers and couldn't answer policy questions. 44 came back, won the nomination. I think DeSantis could bridge that gap. See, but Dewey wasn't in a mass media market. Like he wasn't in constantly on social media and having people like zoom in on his face doing like the weird. You know, like
DeSantis is in the wrong time.
You can't be so uncomfortable in your skin if you're gonna be on camera all the time. And like, dude, I have a hard time being on camera. Like I cut a lot of stuff out where I'm like uncomfortable where I'm recording my videos, but this is the life you signed up for of just constantly being supervised. So
I think Seymour, I think you're looking more at the like the policy like part of the DeSantis. Like, yes, I think 100% DeSantis is the bridge between like the old conservative party and the new conservative party. But just when it comes to that raw charisma, which is so necessary to be president, he just doesn't have it. But I see what you're saying.
Chief Palpatine. I knew a mixed race, Italian, Afro-Puerto Rican, middle-aged guy who was really pro-Trump, esoteric, far-right, and wanted to become king of America. He also kept talking about Zionism, World War II, and Putin. Sounds like an interesting guy. I'd be curious, what area is that? Like, where is this guy from? Is this like some random New Yorker, or like what's going on with him?
Shiv, I relate. Like when you knock on a lot of doors, you just meet like all kinds of people that like have like so many different conflicting things.
Wolf Accaroni, according to President Zelensky and the U.S. Department of Defense, there are around 10,000 North Korean soldiers being deployed to the Russo-Ukraine border. This is escalate. Could this escalation impact the election? This is the first time I'm hearing about this, actually.
Yeah, someone was telling me about this earlier, but I don't really have any like details on it yet. I just saw like a headline.
Okay. Yeah. If you want to tell us a little bit about that, Will, because I haven't heard much about that, but God, how much do Americans pay attention to foreign policy? I guess would be a factor, but look, they're so worried about Israel right now. Wait. Oh, okay.
Are you
fingers crossed? Trump's speaking at the Al Smith dinner now, and it's so weird seeing him with a white tie and tuxedo. What's Trump doing at the Al Smith dinner? Isn't that like a big Democrat
going to
thing?
be there, and I think she should be. It's a tradition. I hate to be like corny like that, but she should come there.
Isn't it crazy that they met on the debate stage?
Yeah,
like I was thinking about them being together at the Al Smith dinner. And it's I was gonna say the like, oh, I'm Kamala Harris, that whole little thing. That was so funny.
Yeah, that was great.
They even mentioned it in the debate. They're like, this is the first time these candidates are meeting.
We never got to talk about that. But yeah, that was like the second best part of the debate, because I was in like my mind, I was like, it would be so cool if she just went and gave him a handshake, even though they don't give handshakes, and then she did. I was like, oh shit, like it was actually really cool. That was like the one corny thing I wanted to see.
Gail Sarmiento said, never forget Andrew Yang ran for New York mayor and had an early lead and squandered it because he can't connect with voters. Something like he wasn't a New Yorker. Yeah, and look who he lost to. And he placed really badly in the race, right? He got like fourth.
Yeah, he had to do like he tried to like work with another mayoral candidates, because I believe they had ranked choice voting. So he's like, hey, vote for if you vote for her, vote for me next. Like it was really bad.
Damn, maybe I could get him on the show. Oh, my bad. My cat's feeder went off, and she's in my room, so I'm gonna let her out real quick.
Oh, there's a cat. My dog is next to me. Not my dog, but
Oh no, you guys saw them wearing pajamas. No. It's like surprisingly chilly for a Florida September day, so I was like, I gotta get cozy.
Yeah, I got on.
Dude, my other pajama pants look just like that, and if I had them, we could have matched.
Yeah, that sucks.
Okay. This is a scary ticket, bro. This is a scary ticket. I would pretend I didn't see that.
It's not impossible.
He said the people's ticket.
It's really not impossible.
Okay. What are your opinions on William Jennings Bryan? I think he's one of the most overlooked figures in U.S. political history, defining an era of democratic ideology, but his little name recognition now.
I mean, dude. You want to talk about this? I have a friend that's like so into this.
I mean, I was just gonna say, like, it really spoke to an era of sort of democratic populism, you know, this whole like sort of outsider candidate, just like the whole religious aspect with him too is so interesting. Just like this preacher coming at you, being like this sort of like man of the people type and getting nominated again and again and again. Like they really had a takeover of the Democratic Party in a way that was really interesting, and that I would honestly love to cover in a future video. I feel bad that William Jennings Bryan isn't that remembered, but as far like a lot of presidents from that era aren't very well remembered by the general public either. So it's like I don't know how much you could really expect. You know, like you look at some of these titans of American history, like Henry Clay, who never became president. Like they're just not very remembered at all either. So I can't say I'm surprised.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said, pretty much. I honestly would like. I've never read a book on him. I've only watched like, you know, maybe 30-minute videos and like one documentary on William Jennings Bryan. So if you have a book, Nathan, that you'd want to recommend, it's like about time that I read something on him.
Yeah. We got Sleeping Joe said Jeb Rice 2028. See, that's funny because that would technically be a unity ticket, right? Because she's a Democrat now.
She is?
Is she? I thought she was.
I don't know.
Am I stupid?
No, well, like I just don't know.
Did she I know she at least said she voted for Joe Biden or something. Okay, it says she's still a Republican. Oops.
Wow, embarrassing on her.
Okay.
I mean,
well,
you know, she's like a modern like.
Dude, who was it? Not her who said? I thought it was her and Colin Powell both said they were voting for Democrats, but I
know Colin Powell did.
How can I be a better activist and coordinate with others to make real change in the country? That's a question for you, Akai.
Well, first off, if you're in North Carolina, I can get you set up really easy, really fast. But other than that, I don't want to give you like a fake answer, because the whole reason I got on this campaign is because I saw someone with a sticker, a Biden here sticker. I'm like, I just want to volunteer, and they hooked me up. But for you, I would say the best thing you can do is find an organization or an organization in your area. Like if you care about, I don't know, climate change, there's a climate change let's say Arizona, climate change in Arizona, and find a specific location and sign up for the newsletters and whatever emails you need to sign up for. But the truth is, a lot of the times they don't get back to you. So if they have an office, go into that office and meet them face to face, and it'll be a lot easier. And they might even just hire you, especially if you're a younger person. Yeah, that's the best advice I can give. It's there's the weird part about like when you try to start volunteering, a lot of the times they just don't get back to you, or they don't actually set you up for stuff. Because I wanted to volunteer for the homeless shelter, and I never got any information back. I promise you, if I just went to wherever the location was and got started, they would have like helped me out. But yeah.
But that's good. I think I was gonna say, I think another thing that's important is like figuring out specifically what you want to do. Like, do you want to be an activist on a specific issue? Like, do you want to be someone that works within like a party organization like Akai does? Do you have like a particular field of study or like a skill that you bring to it?
Yeah, I just realized the question that I answered the question in a different way than what this person was actually trying to get at. I guess you're trying to find out like how you can actually impact things. The working on this campaign, I've realized that like and this is something that sounds obvious, but like it's a lot different when you actually see it. It's about coalitions and it's about groups. And what is a good way to start? Really, really, I hate to say it, but like politics, like getting involved and working for like your state senator, your mayor, your city county commissioner, very important. I know that may not sound like the most exciting answer, but I feel like that's really the best way because they actually have power. You want to go to where power is because those people can actually make change. Because other than that, you'll just be on the outside, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
Like,
I agree with everything.
If this person has more questions about it, like, hell yeah. Well, if you get any more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, feel free to send it, and then we go from that to to another shit post. We got Nikki Haley Jeb 2032.
You gotta mix it up though. You gotta have like a really crappy Republican and a really crappy Democrat on the ticket. Like Jeb.
Do we need?
Jeb? What was it? Walls.
Oh,
well, I like Walls, but Walls. Cheney was great.
No, we need like a fucking like sexual predator ticket that's like Andrew Weiner and Roy Moore or something like that. Just like the two like most morally reprehensible.
Dude, the joke is right there. More Wiener should be the ticket.
Oh my god, I have zero comedic talent whatsoever.
Yeah, right. Sorry guys, this is involved.
Almost said they appreciate your answer.
Thank you, no problem.
Yeah, if you have anything else, like let us know. Incumbent Jeb Bush versus Andrew Yang 2020 needs to be an alt-his timeline. Man, what does the Jeb Bush 2016 victory timeline actually look like? If Jeb Bush beats Hillary Clinton, who runs?
I guess Jeb Bush is not corrupt, and then they make Hillary. They do what they did earlier, just make her corrupt, and then Jeb Bush gets in office and he still does the same. It's funny. Like
I think Hillary Clinton would have beat Jeb Bush.
You said what?
I think Hillary Clinton would have beat Jeb Bush.
Oh, I think so. Well, that's actually.
Obama was fairly popular. I think Hillary was just. I think Trump happened to harness like a really specific sort of energy that no one had taken advantage of in the country.
I don't know, man. That's a complicated. It's two like very establishment figures going against each other. But the difference is one of the establishment figures has been out of office for 8 years, and there's a Republican Party that wants to get the Supreme Court judges in. So that
would be the lowest turnout election ever.
No, that's not like that's the real point to make is like the worst like voter turnout ever. But yeah.
Okay. Would you vote for in this horrifying future for America? Nikki Haley, Jeb Bush, Pike, or Vosh? No.
You guys are gonna hate me, and this might come back to haunt me, but I'm not voting for Hassan Pike or a streamer and Vosh. I rather.
Dude, no. It's so like for someone who's in a lot of progressive spaces, I do not know much about Hassan Piker and Vosh.
Yeah, I don't watch.
Like I've always kind of stayed away from like the streamers.
Yeah, it's I used to watch Vosh a lot. I would not want Vosh as a president or a vice president. Like it's a streamer. Like why would I do that to them? Like Jeb and Nikki Haley have run states before. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Seymour Skinner Edwards was actually a big progressive populist. He won the Midwest for Kerry by most accounts. Yeah, I guess we don't really talk about that much, and it shows how late we are to the comments, how behind.
Yeah, that is so true. Edwards, like he was one of the few like presidents really running on not presidents, people running on income inequality in 2008, even though everyone was kind of focused on like just being anti-Bush or anti-Iraq war. So yeah.
Interesting, but he cheated on his wife. Had cancer too.
Thank you for pulling that up right as I try to like give this some...
Dude, it was the next comment. It was.
Let me tell you something real quick. There is this. I think it was the lady that he had an affair with. She was making a documentary about like how great he was. It was like this webisode series, so you can see episodes, and the whole goal is to like show you just how normal and human he is. But yeah, that ruined anything I had to say.
Ooh, this is so interesting.
Oh, I'd love to answer that question.
How should I debate better with family members about politics? I have strong disagreements with much of my family, but we've gotten so polarized we can't ask each other genuine questions /conversations.
Do you want to start? I'd love to answer that. What I
No, go
would
for it.
say is that it's you can't be emotional when you argue. If you get emotional, they'll get emotional and it'll just heat up. You have to be calm. You have to be collected. You have to be understanding. They're gonna say a lot of dumb shit, but they're humans. I say dumb shit myself. Don't judge them for whatever crazy stuff they're saying. Even if it's the most, I will go into a conversation with someone and I will be like, hey, I don't even care if you're a Nazi or a communist. Like, I want to hear what you got to say. You got to listen. Listening is so important. So I would start with listening, not being emotional. And what was the final one? I already forgot the final one that I said. Listening. This is my what's it called again moment. This is my Rick Perry moment. We're getting rid of the EPA, but I can't think of the third one. But whatever I said earlier, just look at those 3 points. And I can
Yeah,
keep
no, I think
while you talk and say something.
well, I definitely agree with everything that you're saying, but I would say, like, number one, like, I know it's not for everybody, right? Like, I'm someone who really likes to sort of like argue and debate and have these conversations. Like, I'm always trying to convince people of things, but I do understand, like, I will always advocate for that. Like, hey, you should meet people where they're at. Like, the goal of politics should always be to convince and to like bring people to your side, because if not, you're just having competition over like who's right and who's better, and that's not productive at all. You know, I think in a family context it can be extremely frustrating, just because it's like you're just there. You know, like it's kind of hard to remove yourself from like the previously established relationships you already have. um I think that the most that you can do is if you can at least find common problem, right?
Mhm.
Like, if you find things, even if you don't agree on solutions, if you can find issues that you agree on, in my experience, that is a much more productive place to start, right? And I think that even like sometimes if I argue with someone who's like more progressive than myself, I'll be like, yeah, you know, that's a good point. But also, like, hey, this is where a lot of the country is. And if we want to work towards that, you should probably start with this. You know, like, if you want to have like universal health care for everybody, then we should probably start working towards like electing candidates that would support universal health care. You know, and I know that isn't exactly applicable to a conversation with someone who's on the opposite end of the spectrum from yourself, but I do think there's sort of something there of like, hey, what do we agree on and what can we work towards? You know?
I would also say, and this kind of goes in what you're saying, find what you agree with first. When I talk to like a Trumper, like when I'm knocking on doors, because my team back at the office knows me as the person that will like stay at a Trumper's house and talk to them for like an hour, and it's normally the conversation goes fine. What I would say is that when I talk to them about Trump, I talk to them in a way where it comes off like I am someone who wanted to love Trump but couldn't love Trump because he didn't get the things he wanted to do accomplished. Like, he wanted to pass he wanted to get Mexico to build a wall and he couldn't get them to pay for it. He wanted to get rid of NAFTA. He wanted to have election security. He had 4 years to make sure the election wasn't rigged and he couldn't get that done. Like, there's a lot of things. If you argue from there, like you're a Republican who wanted to like Trump, it goes a long way.
Did you see that clip? Well, you said you watched the Flagrant podcast where Trump was talking about like how bad America is,
Yeah,
and Andrew was like, I love this country. What are you talking about? Like, this country's
that
awesome. I couldn't be me in any other country. And I wonder how that would work. Like, if
that
that might appeal to someone.
you have to love your country. You have to, like I said, you have to if you're talking to a Republican, you have to have some like Republican ideals. Like, I love this country to death. I know you do too. You have to have some
Mhm.
like basic common ideals. Like, I'm sorry, like someone that's like a real like anti-American person, like that's like a Democrat or whatever, you're not going to be able to change a Republican's mind because your point of view is just completely different.
I mean, and your point of view, not only is it different from conservatives, I think it's just different from most Americans. You
That's
know,
true.
like, any American, I always mention it, and I know it's an anecdote and it's from Twitter, which is a just cesspool. but it was like someone talking about like, oh, do you believe Israel has the right to exist? And this like person, this lefty, replied in the tweets and was like, I don't even believe America has a right to exist. And I was like, bro, you will never win an election in your life. Like, I'm glad that you enjoy feeling better than other people on Twitter, but like, what are you doing? And you know, I've had I don't know if it's just coming from someone who is like an immigrant. Like, I wasn't born in this country. I know how hard it is to come to this country. Like, I've seen my parents work. I've worked, you know, and it's like, I don't know if you just have a sort of like other appreciation for a place if you've had to like work hard to be there, you know, if it's not just like something that you were given. Because like sometimes people will be like, oh, like, oh, this like America's so shitty, like America's a like I don't have a hope for here and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but if that was true, if I believe that, like a lot of what me and my family have done would have been for nothing, you know. And I'm just like a very optimistic person and a very patriotic person at my core. And I don't know, I refuse to believe that. I think that go watch my Great American West video. That has a very patriotic message at the end.
Hell
y'all. Yeah, and just adding on to that, immigrants are some of the most patriotic people, some of the most pro-American people that you will meet. Even people who agree with me politically can't. Or oh my god, I didn't even realize this was continuation of the same one. We've been on that comment for a really long time. Even people who agree with me politically can't really find any common ground at all with those whom I am politically opposed. Yeah, I mean, I think maybe if we talk about like specific issues.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. Okay, but moving on for now. It's Seymour. Kennedy was always a maverick on foreign policy. He was raised by a staunch isolationist. He believed in fluidity, influencing foreign policy, and actually opposed the Vietnam when it was French. Yeah,
very true. But I think I don't know if this is going back to the thing about him getting out of Nam. I would just go back to the culture at the time, American culture, and him having to worry about re-election in '64.
I have some comments all the way at the bottom. Someone said, genuinely, what is this stream about? I just got here.
Great question.
Yeah, so we were talking about, well, it has become kind of more Q&A just because we've been getting so many questions.
Just Q&As, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I had like an idea for it going in, but we're answering people's questions. We're hanging out. Come hang out if you want and ask your questions.
I guess we just need like actually film a podcast episode where we have no Q&As, and then
man, I love these questions. Do the podcast. Yeah, no, the questions are really fun. I think it does keep it dynamic.
Exactly.
And I have to find where I was. Okay. I could hear Josh. This is the guy that met Josh Shapiro, Sleeping Joe. I could hear Josh Shapiro switch out of his Obama voice while he was addressing the room. The more natural tone in one-on-one conversation. It's funny, but he's still a really great communicator. Yeah, I think that's a perfectly fair assessment.
I'm so like interested in Josh Shapiro. Like, just the second I saw him give a speech, I'm like, what the fuck? Is that Obama? That's not freedom.
Okay, dude, I have a whole video coming out tomorrow called The Florida Dream that mentions those two factors. Like, I talk a lot about those two factors that you mentioned, and it's also a huge part because of the old people. Like, do not underestimate how conservative older Americans are and how much more they will turn out. Like, I say this in the video, I'm 23 years old. Florida has never had a Democratic governor in my lifetime, despite going for Obama twice. Like, crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Sorry, real quick. Charlie Crist, how did that work? Do you remember Charlie Crist?
Charlie Crist was governor in the 90s.
I thought he was governor in the 2000s.
Or wait, no. He was governor. Let me see. Because he was a Republican when he was governor.
I think so.
No, he was.
Okay.
When was he governor?
He was,
07 to 11. Okay. Yeah. He was governor more recently. I thought he was governor in the 90s.
Yeah, he switched over to the Republican Party after he.
So he was governor before Scott.
Yeah. Charlie Crist.
Let's see. With Trumpism and its tariffs, the Protectionism and the Inflation Reduction Act, and isolationism on the left, and the Democrats, do you think America will become more isolationist before World War II? I don't think Democrats are necessarily isolationist.
I'm not really seeing that right
now. I think
now.
there's maybe in like the more progressive left spaces, you'll find people that are a little more like pro-Palestine, you know, and like anti-war in the sense of like the Middle East, but I haven't seen like AOC or anyone have disagreements with like Ukraine policy, right?
Yeah, I think that's
not that I know
like
of.
The Trumpism, like Vance kind of thing that's going on. We'll see what happens with that in 2028.
Yeah, but I think America is headed in an isolationist direction. I think that we've had consensus on foreign policy for a really long time. Like you wouldn't see. I've been reading Bob Woodward's new book about the wars during the Biden administration, and it was talking about how the consensus has sort of moved. Like pre-Obama, you would have had complete agreement on the Ukraine war, you know, and like Obama era was when that really started to get politicized, and Republicans would criticize Obama for like not being supportive enough of Ukraine, like when Russia took Crimea. So it's kind of funny to see where we've ended up, but I think that's definitely a direction that we're going in. Oh, Shiva's heading out. Let's see you, Shiv. Have a good night, bro.
Steve, love you, man. We gotta get Steve on the live stream actually.
Dude, I was thinking about doing call-ins at some point. I think that'd be fun.
Would be so cool.
Here you go. Okay. Sorry, I kind of cut you off before you went.
You're fine. Oh wait! I thought I kind of said what I needed to say.
Oh, okay. My bad. Would you ever do a video on the on the election of 1992? Yeah, bro, I would love to. I've started working on a Bill Clinton video before, but I just ADD. I jump around a lot. I like work a little bit here and work a little bit there.
Like that's the only video I'll actually like really help you out on. To be honest with you, like I will.
Dude, I will take the help. You get the co-writing credit. You could. We could set up the camp. Oh no, Akai. What needs to happen is like I need to go to Charlotte, and we need to like record something.
Work towards something, you said?
No, record something. Like we need to find something in like the Charlotte area.
I don't know.
Where I could film the Harris campaign office.
That would be cool.
I'm sure they would.
I mean, we got 19 more days though. 19 more days.
Yeah, I'd have to make it there pretty quick.
Your camera froze, man.
No. Why does it do that, man?
It's a sacrifice for better quality. So.
Yeah, it looks so much better.
Yeah.
Okay. In an era of modern global trade, it's nearly impossible for the U.S. to go back to full isolationism. Thank God. That being said, Republicans are definitely headed in that direction. Yeah. 100%. I mean, that's in line with what we said pretty much. Like it's so interconnected. I do think like we should try to manufacture more of our own things. Like I'm a pretty big proponent of that. Like I think that with COVID and just with all like the surges and prices of everything, supply shortages, it was like, yeah, we probably should manufacture more here. And I'm a big fan of the CHIPS Act. Like I think that was really smart, and I think that sort of consensus is actually like a really good thing. Henry Clay is such a cool figure. Not even joking. I think he's one of the most fascinating figures in American history, fighting tooth and nail to get the country together with a civil war. Yeah, Henry Clay is super interesting. And I've been telling Akai he needs to read the book Almost Presidents, because that's such a great trip through American history, and the parts on Clay there are really great.
I will one day.
It's not a one-day book, man. You just gotta gotta put it on like Audible.
There's like a trillion books I haven't read, man. Oh goodness, I got here on me. It's like a trillion books I haven't read.
A good book for you to understand William Jennings Bryan is A Godly Hero by Michael Casey.
Hell yeah. Thank you, man. We've typed that in.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Let's see. What are your thoughts on podcast influence on voter perception? Vance went on some a while ago, and now Harris is going on lots of them, like call her daddy.
It's not. It has an impact, but like you look at, I remember Vivek's campaign in Iowa, like he lost so badly, and he was on every podcast in the world.
But okay,
then Bernie with Joe Rogan. I don't know. It's up in the air right now.
I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit there because Vivek was in Iowa for months, man. That man was shaking every hand. That man was meeting everybody. He did so much retail politics and he got zero reward for it. Like, I think Vivek just wasn't gonna happen. I think being a podcast candidate, like a Yang or a Vivek, like I don't think that's a smart strategy. Like, I don't think you can make that your whole thing, but like I don't think Vivek was happening either way. I think that if you're looking at the major party candidates like Trump and Harris, I think that it's a really smart thing to do because there's so few undecided voters in this election that a lot of what actually matters is just getting people to turn out. And who are the people who aren't very likely to turn out, right? The people on the margins, they're people that are probably watching podcasts. Like younger people, maybe kind of disaffected, like not super enthusiastic. Like if you're not really paying attention to the election and you like Call Her Daddy and Kamala goes on there, you'd be like, oh, you know what? Maybe I will. Or like Trump on Theo Vaughn or on Flagrant, you know? Like, will it matter a lot in the margins? Probably not. But is it better than going on Fox News for like the 100th time? Yeah, I think so. I think it'll reach a different audience. I think that it'll be cool to see what happens this election. I think this is the start of it, and we can expect to see a lot more of it in the future. But we'll see what happens.
I 100% agree on that. It makes me happy to know that Vivek was out there shaking hands in the cold and he got nothing out of it. But I think I'm a big proponent. Like, if you're a presidential candidate, you should be like going on any media, any kind of media you can, no matter what it looks like. So I don't know how much is going to impact it, but we'll see.
We got Sleeping Joe, once again, the GOAT. Book recommendation, The Outlier by Kai Bird. He's one of the most engaging biographies I've read. Definitely reads very pro-Carter, but also is willing to be honest about the failures. Man, we're his very best bros.
Yeah, we are very good. That's actually the first presidential book that got me like back into like reading about presidents.
Really? No, his very best was a really great book for me as well. I've heard about The Outlier, but I decided against reading The Outlier because of how highly you talked about his very best.
Oh, I got you into it? I don't remember that. That's crazy. Wow.
What do you when we first started talking again is when you were reading his very best and you were like all about Jimmy Carter at the time.
I forgot that. I really did. That's good.
Mm-hmm. No, that'd be really interesting. I just read his very best this year, so probably will be a little bit before I read another Carter book. I don't know if by chance you would have read both, but if you have, I'd be super interested in how they differentiate, or even just if you could say a little bit more about the book, because I'd say his very best is also generally pro Carter, though it might be a little more agnostic than The Outlier,
but leaning more pro Carter.
People talking about Vosh. This was a while ago, but when it come out that Russia was funding tenant media, how much interference do you think foreign countries have in this election?
Complex
man question. I mean, I think that a lot of the sort of Russia interfering in 2016 stuff kind of gets overplayed. Like, I think like some of the memes and stuff were like,
that was a big thing. Like, you remember that? That was so big.
I know, that was such a big story, but I'd say like the Trump being like, hey, Russia, hack her emails, bro. Hack her email, like that's pretty crazy.
You know what? He didn't do that, but I could, in a world where he was a little smarter, I can see him doing that. Like, because it's the same sort of logic as like, go find dirt on Joe Biden.
No, he said that. He was like, hey, if Russia hacks her emails, you know.
Oh yeah, he did say that.
Oh.
But yeah,
well, the tenant media stuff is really crazy because it's just like either that's complete ignorant, either you're an idiot, you just wanted to be ignorant to have plausible deniability, or you're just like, yeah, I don't care, I'll just take the money from where I can get it.
And they're so blatant with like the stuff that they say. It's disgusting, man. I don't watch those channels because it's stupid. But like, oh my gosh, it's the clips I've seen are so blatant.
Yeah. We got Gail again. As a male, it is so worrying to see how young males are identifying with conservative adjunct influencers. They're supporting Trump even though they don't have the faintest idea of his policies.
Mhm.
I wouldn't say they don't have the faintest idea of his policies. I'd say
I think they do.
it's more like this isn't a policy first election. Like, our politics have really come down to vibes, and unfortunately, Trump has the vibes that young males are messing with. Apparently,
Yeah, but there was a whole, in hindsight, not even in hindsight, there was like a whole media movement, and I fell prey to this too. The whole Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson. That's that's gonna be like a story that young men talk about, like how influential that whole 2016, 2015 anti-SJW era was for young men, and it's evolved into like Andrew Tate and
I mean, there's a lot of conversations about like young men being in crisis and sort of like needing guidance. And I do think there's truth there to some aspects, right? But I do think part of it also is just like kind of being in the internet age and having access to all of these things that people didn't have before. Like, there's a lot of radicalizing material out there, and it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have access to it, right? Like, I don't support censorship of that, but I do think it's like we don't really know how to balance those things. Like, my parents didn't know like what like political things I was looking at when I was like 15. And it's really easy to just sort of fall into that stuff. You just see people talking about it. Like, I'm curious to see if the trend holds, I will say. But I don't know. To me, it just seems like it's all on vibes.
I agree.
Let's see. Sleeping Joe agreed. Said, that is so true. It drives me insane. They take right-wing positions just to seem more masculine or to go against the mainstream media, a capitalist, neoliberal / neocon institution.
Yeah, I agree.
See, I think Shiv made a good. Shiv said that makes no sense since Marxism and Leninism is based off a strong police force. I think that Sleeping Joe was talking about it more in sort of like a new left sort of idea, not like a traditional like Marxism neoliberalism kind of thing, but more so just like modern notions of like gender and sexuality as perceived by the left. I think that there is just something more traditionally masculine, I guess, about the right. And it is a little unfortunate because I do think like some conversations that have been had on the left that I think are like for the most part like very reasonable have sort of alienated young men to a certain degree, which is I guess says something about like our societal attitudes. I don't know. It is unfortunate.
Yeah, we'll have to see in the future.
Okay. Could you please do more videos on Brazil in the future? I'd especially love to see a piece on the Americanization or U.S. fixation, I guess, of Brazil in terms of politics. Man, I would like to. I do. That Brazilian video that I made really stressed me out, man. I was really stressed out. If anything, I'd like to do a video more so about American media and culture in a Brazilian context, like the TV shows they watch, like the songs that they listen to, the interactions between the cultures. And I'd like to talk about more cultural stuff in general on the channel. It's like the presidential stuff that always tends to do better, just because that's kind of the content that most viewers found me from. But I'd be interested in talking about Brazil from a cultural lens. I think I'll talk about it in a cultural lens again before I talk about it in a political. Yeah, I just realized you probably don't have anything to say to that. That question doesn't really.
I'm just like,
I look at you and you're just like,
yeah, very important stuff.
Let's see. We have a question here. He says, "How are you? What do you think of Lula?" Man, I think.
Have you been paying attention to Lula like that right now? Because I have not.
Yeah, I'm not. I haven't been paying super attention to Brazilian politics. I think it's more interesting to talk about Lula and to talk about politicians overall instead of just like, oh, do I like this person? Do I not like this person? To talk about them in terms of narrative. Like I've always liked this idea that Lula is kind of like Obama from an alternate universe, right? Like Obama, where, well, let's say the US, for anyone who's not familiar, in Brazil, you can serve 2 consecutive terms, but after you're out of office, you can run again, right? So let's say in a world where Obama had won 2008 and 2012, left office in 2016, and then ran against Trump in 2020, which in a lot of ways, like Biden running against Trump was kind of like a rebuttal of the Obama legacy, right? It's like, hey, here's this familiar face who's going to take back over. And that's the way I've always like really seen Lula, you know? It's like, hey, here's this pre-Bolsonaro guy, and he's coming back to sort of like bring things back to normal. And Lula's really interesting too, just because I in my Brazil video, I talked about him as the main character of modern Brazilian politics. This guy started running for president in the 80s. You know, like that's actually crazy that he started running for president like 40 years ago. For anyone who doesn't know, Lula, the current president of Brazil, was a big labor leader in the country, especially towards the end of the military dictatorship. And he just became a very big public figure there, ran for president several times, got very, very low placements until eventually winning the presidency in 2006. He was president for 2 terms, and then his successor took over, got impeached. He was involved in the impeachment scandal because he was in the administration. He went to jail. He got out of jail, had this big political comeback where he beat Bolsonaro. It's a very interesting story. And I have a whole video about
Edge
it.
of democracy. Edge of democracy.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, this person's probably already seen it though.
Okay. Which campaign do you think has been the most effective, Harris or Trump?
In the short period of time that Harris has been, in the short period of time.
wait. For if there's anyone who like joined us after we talked about this, Akai works for the Harris campaign.
But I'm going to try to
his little Harris for President staff.
Yeah,
on his shirt. Just he's not speaking for them. He's speaking for himself.
This is like, I will talk crap if they have their own problems. But in the short period of time that they've been doing this, I think they've done a pretty effective job. They just need to be more in the press. In our area, we don't have a lot of signs, but that might just be a North Carolina thing. I don't know if you've experienced that.
Dude, like running in my neighborhood, I've actually seen like a good bit of Harris wall signs, and I don't think I would have seen them if I didn't run around my neighborhood. So I don't know if that's because it's like the only place I've seen them. So I don't know if I'm just not looking, and that's the only time that I see it because I'm just like sweating and dry heaving, and I don't have anything else to look at.
Yeah, it might just be a state thing for me. But no, I think they've done a pretty effective job considering like the DNC. That was like, we're gonna forget about that, but that was a really great convention.
Yeah, honestly, what has the Trump campaign done that's been like that impressive this time around? I feel like they're mostly just kind of on autopilot, right?
Yeah, they totally squandered the assassination attempt. Like they really. You remember our call when he got when he got shot? Oh my god! I was like, well, yeah, we lost the election, dude. It's over.
Oh my god, man! Well, there was a dark couple of days.
Yeah, that was a dark.
But I also, dude. Okay, from Trump's perspective, it's so crazy to like be in the lead, almost get shot, you survive. You're suddenly like you're polling like crazy. You're riding a high. You're about to win a landslide, and then they just switch bro out like
that's all
like 3 days. They switched bro out 3 days almost after you got killed. After you almost got killed.
The poor
absolutely
man can't stop talking about that,
man. And he was it took him so long to run against Kamala. Yeah. And to not just be like, they did a coup. They did a coup. Like, man, I would be mad as hell too.
The choice of Wolf was like a great choice too. Like, so yeah.
Yeah. Man, okay. Let me see. Change for your country should come out of patriotism, not a reaction to destroy because of its past.
Like 2 years. That's amazing. Yeah.
I broadly agree with that. In my opinion, Kennedy gets out in 66, Civil Rights Act in 65. Johnson is too poorly. I think he's saying Johnson's like too ill to run in 1968. Perhaps Bobby in 68 narrowly defeats Nixon. Man, do you think that Bobby could win after 8 years of JFK? I don't think
Definitely
so.
not.
Maybe like 1972.
Yeah,
maybe a little later than that. I don't know.
Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy's like, not that he's not a talented political figure, but like, he really comes out of he really gets his clout because of JFK and his assassination specifically.
Florida probably hasn't ever had a Democrat governor who wasn't a conservative Dixiecrat. Oh, who's the last Democratic governor of Florida?
Maybe Bob Graham. Bob Graham was.
I think it was Bob Graham.
And like, let's see what kind of. He helped found the Democratic Leadership Council, so he was like a Bill Clinton DLC type.
Okay, yeah. So I wouldn't call him a Dixiecrat.
He was okay. I want to see because I'm interested in this. He was a Democrat. The next dude was a conservative Democrat. Okay, let me not do this because I'm gonna get lost in this.
Yeah, we can't do research on stream unless we're like Destiny with the freaking like. Shout out to Destiny, by the way, for bringing JJ and Mr. Beat to Florida, and I got to hang out with both of them just because Destiny flew them out.
I never really thought about that.
No, that was so funny. And I know so little about Destiny, but I gotta thank him for that. Let's see. What's your take on LBJ's term as president? Really looking forward to Volume 5 of Caro. Interesting that Johnson was the. Hey, don't laugh, man. Robert Caro's in good shape for his age. He's in good shape. That's so messed up to laugh at. Man, wait, look at this guy. He's not even in a desk chair. He's in a kitchen chair. Crazy. That's crazy, bro. You're laughing at Robert Caro from a kitchen chair.
All right, don't do that. I don't think we're seeing a thing.
You can't. Don't say that.
All right.
Okay. Serious answer. I think LBJ had really.
I'm done. I'm so done.
Okay.
I just thought of another joke. I was like, that's like asking for another Jimmy Carter autobiography.
Did that? Okay, no. Robert Caro is not Jimmy Carter, bro.
He's not.
Okay, I'll say, in like the simplest terms I could say, LBJ had really low lows and really high highs. Right? I think he did like incredible things in domestic policy that no other president could have achieved. Like, I think he was a legislative genius. I think he met the moment perfectly, and he did a lot of good things for the country. There's no there's no apologizing for like the way he handled Vietnam, right? Like, just disastrous Vietnam policy. And I think that that's something that you can acknowledge while still appreciating the things he did for the country internally.
That you couldn't have said it better on that. I can't really say anything else.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Alejandro Garcia said the last Democratic governor of Texas was Rick Perry. I thought Rick Perry was George Bush's lieutenant.
Rick Perry was literally like making like ads in like 2012 about like how you shouldn't have gays in the military.
I don't know. You have to look at.
Maybe he switched parties.
See, Marianne Williams, I've heard of. That was the lady that.
The last. It was Ann Richards was the last. Was it Ann?
Ann Richards. That's her name. Yeah, because that's who Bush defeated.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
She was pretty good.
We got another one from Alejandro. Modern isolationism would look more like tariffs and what Mexico is doing. I'm not that familiar with what Mexico is doing, honestly. Someone brings up Mexico every stream, and I never have that good of a thing to say.
We need to get on. We need to learn more about Mexico. I mean, like I said, I know the basics. I know like all
Sorry,
the
my face
presidents
is
they've had recently, but
we need to learn about like Claudia Scheinbaum
yeah,
is her name, right?
Claudia
And
Sheinbaum.
then, since you're a reader, what are your thoughts on all the classic political books like Leviathan and Das Kapital? I have not read either of those books. I've not read much theory or anything like that. I've read mostly like modern political biographies. So sorry to disappoint.
Totally on the same page on that.
Oh, skipping a bunch of comments. Gail said Rick Perry was a Democrat but switched parties in 1989. Okay,
Yeah.
so that was way before he was governor. Bro went the Dixiecrat route.
Exactly.
Okay, let's see, where are you? Okay, Sleeping Joe with another. Sleeping Joe is spitting tonight. I think it's useful to draw a distinction between some protectionist economics and total isolationism. Some protectionism is healthy for our country, while total isolationism is not only economically disastrous, but morally abhorrent in many cases, like Ukraine. Could not have said it better. I think that's perfect. He kept going. It's also important to note that often things like tariffs raise prices, which in an economic mood like this, where people report that they're struggling, the cost of living can be harmful. Yeah, there's a big difference between like Kamala's like targeted tariffs and Trump like, we're gonna raise tariffs across the board on everything.
And that's like the only thing he'll like actually do too.
That's the only thing he actually cares about.
And maybe like a tax cut. He doesn't.
Queen.
I don't know. He's kind of like been
said,
regaining it recently, if you ask me.
See, man,
With the podcast.
I've thought also that Trump lost the sauce, but I think there's like the inroads he's made with male voters, you know, there's something there. Like there's something there to it. I think that
I think there's a lot of quiet Trump supporters right now.
Yeah, like I want to think that Trump like mostly lost the sauce. Like I do think that's the case, but I also wonder how much of that is me being in my own ideological bubble.
Exactly. All right, man. I think I'm gonna have to go because I gotta go to work tomorrow.
Yeah, I gotta go to work tomorrow too. Damn,
guys, I might be tomorrow.
All right, okay. I'll let you go. I'll close out the rest of the questions.
Okay, I feel bad though. There's probably some great questions there.
No. It's okay. I know. Well, no. What time do you have to work? If I work earlier than you, then there's no excuse.
You probably do have to work earlier than me, but I have to drive like 3 hours to see Clinton.
Oh, true. Okay, never mind. Sorry. All right. Almost said thanks, Akai.
No problem.
All right, y'all. Okay, I will set Akai free, I guess. But y'all yell at him because I've been trying to get Akai on stream since the last stream, and this man is not available.
It's literally my job. Like I would totally come on. I mean,
you know what's funny though is we should be heating up this. We should be heating up the streams as we get closer to the election. But that like you'll be more available once the election ends.
Yeah, that is true. I'll have all the free time. All right. Well, see you guys.
I'll see you around. Have a good night. Thank you for joining us.
No problem. All right. Bye.
Okay, y'all. I will answer a couple more questions and then we'll probably wrap up for the night. There's so many questions, so I'm gonna try to speed through the rest that I got here. Okay. It's so weird going to being alone after talking to a guy this whole time. Let's see, where was I? I'm sorry, I went to this question on the bottom. What's your opinion on Democratic leaders wearing military uniforms? Obviously comes off quite dictatorial, but leaders like Churchill and Zelensky are well liked and worn. Yeah, I think it's something that I don't like it in an American context at all. I think in a Brazilian context, which those are like the two that I can speak to the most, being my nationalities. I think in a Brazilian context, I wouldn't like it either, just because of that country's recent history with military dictatorships. I do think in a scenario like Zelensky, where you're a wartime president, I do think it's particularly, I think that it's more fitting, and I think that certainly worked for him. And I think for Churchill, especially at the moment, I think that like it really reflected the tone of the country, and I think that he met the moment well, especially like with his history as a military leader. But I don't know. I'd have to think more about that. That's an interesting question. Gail said Lula is a Putin apologist. See, okay. I have sort of, like, thinking from a Brazilian perspective, I've seen Lula trying to position himself as a sort of mediator between the United States and Russia, and even like as like a dissenting voice in Israel Palestine as well. Like, I think that Lula wants to be the guy that can sort of broker a negotiation there. I think he wants to be the guy who's kind of good with both parties, and I think from a Brazilian perspective that makes sense, even if it is contrary to American interests. Have you ever looked into the CIA's operation in Laos? I strongly recommend watching Mark Ebrel's film, The Most Recent Place on Earth. It's haunting and truly necessary. Man, that sounds really interesting. I haven't looked much into that, but I think that that's great. Most recent, or was it most recent or most secret? Most secret, sorry. Most secret place on Earth. I'll write that down. If you guys ever have any book recommendations or movie recommendations, feel welcome to email them to me. I have my email listed on the channel, or Instagram or Twitter or anything. Let's see. Going back to Skinner's alt timeline, I don't think an Nixonian Law and Order message does well in a world where Dems probably don't have the political power to pass super strong civil rights act. Yeah, I think that's totally true. See, it's always been so hard for me to speculate on alternate history scenarios because of that. I feel like there's just so many factors. But I do love alternate history hub though. Which of the four candidates who were in the election, Trump, Kennedy, Biden, Harris, could have the best movie made about them? Man, I mean, it's probably okay. I was gonna say it's probably Trump, but maybe not. I know The Apprentice is out now. I've been meaning to watch that, but I haven't. I'd say it was Kennedy just because of how crazy of a life he's had. I bet that you could do something like really ridiculous and interesting there, but it wouldn't be some sort of super serious movie or anything. What's your favorite alt history timeline, like RFK 1968 or Gore 2000? I am super interested in RFK 68. I think that that's incredibly compelling. Make my way through more questions. The Destiny to Andre Industrial Complex. Yeah, I appreciate it if he wants to send more people my way. I wouldn't mind. Sleeping Joe said, Bill, if I had to guess, it would be a Rockefeller presidency following Kennedy. Civil rights is slow to roll by the end of the decade. Rockefeller is an interesting one. I think that's a pretty feasible option. What's even sadder is Robert Caro has it in his contract that his work can't be posthumously released. So when he dies, so does his work. Man, I mean, I understand Robert Caro not wanting the unfinished book to come out if he passes. I think that's fairly reasonable. Okay. I think that Elijah Bennett, the move to tariffs still represents a dramatic shift, especially as they are unilateral rather than done via the WTO, not to mention the disastrous impact of past tariffs such as Smoot-Hawley. Yeah, I'd probably have to study more on tariffs myself, but I think that that sounds right. I'm sorry, guys. I might be getting a little tired too. And Collective Gallium met Destiny once at your university. Was he visiting your university, or are you from South Florida? Because I'm in the South Florida area too, and I know Destiny's in Miami. But I guess with that, we could probably wrap up. So we have one last comment from Sleeping Joe. If the streamer ever wins the national election, I'm moving to Canada to flee from the debate pro-menace. Yeah, I don't know. I tried. My family's done a lot to be in this country, so I don't know if I have the same eagerness to really leave. And Collective Gallium said that he lives in Texas. Okay. Well, with that, I guess we will sign off. I can look at the camera and sign off since I'm not looking at comments. So thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate it a lot. there's a new video tomorrow coming out if you want to check that out about Florida that I worked really hard on. And thank you guys for joining and spending your night with me. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys later. Good night.